Welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer. I'm a little, normally when I come into Detroit, I stop at Starbucks and get me a white chocolate mocha, but I couldn't do it today. And this studio coffee is, woo! Yes, sir. It's really interesting. I'll have to stop and get me some coffee, or may have to bring some coffee in and start making it here. It's something else. But, I think this next interview is going to be, in my opinion, an eye-opening, and because it's the guest that we have on is a well-researched individual. He's someone who refuses to let Americans sleepwalk through this economic decline. His name is Paul Stone. He's a husband, father, entrepreneur, and a visionary in the world of decentralized finance. He's the author of 1971. A deeply researched book that zeroes in on the moment the U.S. quietly abandoned the gold standard, and in his view, the moment the American dream began to unravel. His work doesn't stop at diagnosing the problem. He's building solutions. He's a solutionarian. He's building solutions like, I hope I say this name right, the Aureus coin, a gold-backed digital currency, and he challenges us to see finance not as numbers on a screen, but as a moral issue tied to freedom, family, and faith. His book has already drawn the attention and endorsement of names like Jeanine Pirro, Larry Kudlow, Roger Stone, and Greg Kelly. But more importantly, it's sparking conversations about whether America has the courage to face the truth about our money, our government, and our future. Paul Stone, welcome to Detroit's Morning Answer.
John, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be with you.
Now, Paul, you argue that 1971 was the year the American dream began to die. What exactly, take us through the journey. What exactly happened that year, and why do you see it as the turning point?
In a couple of parts of my career, I'm studying and trying to understand why life is so difficult, or it seems to be unreasonably difficult. And there was a point in time a couple years ago where I zoomed out and I was looking, and I love history, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I've come to think that the source of everything matters, the source of where your chicken comes from, right? The source of where your, handy tool products come from. They used to all be made in America. Right now they're made overseas, and the quality is very low. And so I think the source of everything matters. So I started looking from the Egyptians to different societies, and you don't see a society that feels it ought to anesthetize itself with drugs like on a routine basis. That's just never occurred before. And you start looking at the government and the decisions it makes, like prohibition just ushered in billions of dollars of revenue for the mob.
Yeah.
Like when you look at government choices, so you start to think, how could society fall apart? Like, how could the human being, we make great copies of human beings every day, perfect copies of humans, right? So how could people be struggling in ways that they never seemed to struggle before? There has to be an inception point. Yeah. And if you take Newton's law of physics, that an object in motion just tends to stay in motion forever, unless it's interfered with, what could possibly be something so big and down at the ground level that would cause humanity to change up what it is experiencing here on the planet?
Yeah.
And it's money.
Yep.
So if you start to think of money as energy, right, it powers our lives in many ways, right? So does hope, right? So does willpower, dreams, right? So if you start to think of money as energy, what Nixon did is he ended the way upon which the government dealt with that. They were never a creator of energy, right? They got the scraps through taxes from the economy. What Nixon did when he ended the gold standard is he just said the government is no longer going to have a limitation to how much money it can create. It's going to create money now. It's in the money creation business.
Yeah. But Paul, do you think most Americans today even recognize just how much their everyday struggles, debt, wages, savings trace back to 1971?
No, they don't, because it comes along so slowly. Death by 1,000 cuts. You didn't realize you just bled out, but eventually there's that day where there's everything's gone. And so here's the crux of it. We need to be able to have peace of mind. I think people seek, peace and comfort, and I think that's a natural drive for folks to pursue things that provide that to them, a situation that offers that. And if your earnings don't overwhelm your bills, you can't have peace of mind. Like all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So now the mind is going to start looking for what's wrong? How do I do? So you sink into, there's so many people that are depressed thinking there's something wrong with them. They're doing it wrong. How could I work 2 jobs, 80 hours a week and still not? Because here's why. Evidence just since 2010, when the money printing got extreme, recovering from 2008, corporate profits and commodities are up about 400% since 2010. And wages are up 80%. So your cost of living is up 5 times how much your wages have grown by. And that's evil to me, right?
Yeah.
So the government says, well, when we get our bills, we're going to print money to pay them, which makes your bills bigger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make your earnings match at the same pace.
Yeah. You use the word which creates a perfect segue into my next question. You've called inflation evil. And I was like, why would he choose moral language instead of economic jargon? Why did you go to the using moral language instead of using normally what economists would use is some type of economic term, but you used a moral language, and I found that quite fascinating. Why so?
Oh, great question. No one's asked me that before. And this book's not an econ book, right?
Yeah.
It's on Amazon. It's not an econ book. It's a humanistic. It's a true story. It's a true story about about 350 million people or so that, someone's going to tell a story someday about how we overcame this.
Yeah.
And so much of life, this, your background, it's about challenges and overcoming things, right? And so I use the word evil because I would consider that if you are knowingly doing something that harms another and you don't stop or seek ways to stop what you're doing, that's evil.
I like that.
So if you go back to Reagan's inauguration address in 1981, he says, "We have a government, not the other way around." I am sick and tired of feeling like, I'm property of the state today. That I'm just have a number on me and I'm just a revenue generator, and that just helps the government do whatever the hell it wants to go do. I'm just here to generate revenue so that they can get some kind of income and pay their bills. So they have a power that I'm just I'm on a leash and I'm not on the part that's being held. I'm on the part with the collar. So that to me is evil because in the Constitution, it also says that pursuit of happiness is, it's a principle of what you're going to get to, be in that by design, the Constitution says in this country, happiness is achievable.
Yeah. And
all of you out there should be able to be freely in pursuit of that and in discovery of how you get there. But we have a government that has ended the ability to even pursue happiness. All you're going to be pursuing today, when you think about it, is struggle.
Debt.
Struggle.
Yeah. Here's a 2-part question for you. As I think about these, your Arias, did I say that right? Is it Arias?
Yes.
Okay. As I think about your Arias coin and gold-backed crypto, this is a 2-part question. First of all, why is gold still the anchor of trust in a digital economy? And what makes Arias coin fundamentally different from, let's say, Bitcoin or the speculative crypto projects people have been burned by?
That's a great question. When we look at what that will become, we'll get to talk about it more when it finally launches. But just suffice to say that, the crux of your question, I believe, is that gold is of the earth. The dollar bill is not. So whenever you look at everything you can see right now, where did it come from? It came from the planet one way or another, right?
Yeah.
So, but money doesn't. It doesn't. Not if it's created out of thin air. When the government, that $37 trillion in debt, where was that spent? They weren't building ski resorts in Austria with that money. It was spent here in America. So now you think, oh, my God, I mean, how bad could it get? It's a disreality is what I'm trying to point to. So this is one way to look at it. Let's say the Fed was like, all right, these gals are all screaming and complaining about all the debt, so we're just going to take it back.
Yeah.
So the Fed just pulls $37 trillion back out of our economy tonight at midnight. Think about it. What do you think life would be like in a couple days?
Ooh.
So,
Yeah.
so artificial money, because that debt is not real. They didn't borrow that from the Bank of England. Right, that money they kind of say we owe that to ourselves. Bull, you guys are the ones without any vision or any managerial experience or proficiencies or a track record that I would ever want to hire in my business. You're the ones who can't see bills coming, and when they land on your desk, you just print the money to pay them. That ended up creating stuff in existence, $37 trillion worth, that wouldn't be here had they not printed the money. Therefore, the financial realm, if you will, great in a great many ways, is artificial because the money they created was artificial. You can't make cotton candy out of thin air.
That is true, even though it turns into thin air.
Right, but the money is. And if you go back to thinking of money as energy, what is all of that artificial financial energy powering? Everything you're experiencing right now.
Yeah. So, Paul, how important was it with President Trump having the first crypto meeting at the White House? And was Go Back Crypto discussed in those meetings?
It was, of course. There'll be many people out, and even many listening, right, that would say, well, gold is inflexible, and, so is truth.
Ooh.
Truth is inflexible. It's a principle. If your navigation drops off and you're sailing around the ocean, you're going to be grateful the stars up above you haven't shifted, so you can chart your course and not end up running into the land somewhere, crash your boat. Right? You got it. We need hard and fixed things. Everything in life has limits to it. Ooh. If you're people that say, well, I don't want my money to have limits, great. Then you'll have 70% of your country in the presidential exit polls saying life in America is extremely difficult. It sucks. Now, that might sound unpatriotic, but I'm talking about what the government has been doing to end the American dream. You look at home ownership, right? You look at 20, 30-year-olds that are thinking, well, I'll never own a home. Tiger Woods said he never hit a golf shot where he didn't envision where the ball was landing before he swung. Mm-hmm. We need the connection of where we're going to land to get going on the journey. They're smoking out the hopes and dreams of 20, 30-year-olds, teenagers, and we're going to be upset with them. Well, why can't you just get through it, Johnny? Come on, Sally, just, stiff upper lip. They don't see how their life is going to be like ours, or how mine is going to be like my parents.
Paul, Nancy Pelosi has been really pushing this digital dollar. Is that something that we should be trying to reach, or is that something that the digital dollar is something different from what you're trying to push out?
Anybody who's done gut-wrenching, self-reflective work of trying to be a better human, with a life coach or some self-help stuff, is going to know that you can't treat symptoms of problems.
Okay, come on now. Now you're touching it. Go ahead.
So if the next reach is for the new currency, all they're trying to, what that is a sign of is that they're not willing to they don't even understand what the problem is. Stop printing the money, come to the American people, tell us the truth. I'm not putting this on Trump, but I'm just saying Washington, D.C., Congress is the one that approves these bills. They're the ones that wouldn't make cuts to things that the money doesn't need to be spent on anymore, because that means in their state, they're going to go without some funding. Yeah. Which then they worry that the people that vote for them will be upset and won't vote for them anymore. The reason Cuba is still communist is there aren't enough people willing to sacrifice their heartbeats at the moment for the generations that could come up behind them in democracy, in freedom. Sacrifice is necessary, and that's why the people in Washington used to be the greatest governmental city in the world. Yeah. But for the last 50 years, it's just a place where the same old happens. And that's what the book's about. It's empowering people to recognize you are really up against it. You're
Yeah.
really up against it, and you got to look for how you take your life back. That which you focus on will grow.
Yeah. And you know, I also, what I love about it is that what this does, it rebuilds local power, because
Yes.
you talk about human scale solutions. What does that mean for a family in a small town, let's say where I'm speaking at tonight, Livonia, who are struggling to pay their bills? The human scale solutions.
Yeah. One, in all my research, one of the things that came to me as an epiphany, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but to me it makes a great deal of sense, is that the number one thing that drives humans together, strangers together, right? And none of us actually are strangers. We're all brothers and sisters in many ways. We're all connected, is solving a problem.
Yeah.
And what the government's been doing by printing all this money saying in the problem-solving business, it has come in between. Their problems come in between you and I, which breaks down the bonding material that actually causes us to come together. So just like, and this is just a thought, but just like the folks who had courage and decided to bail out on socialism and monarchies in Europe and get on some wooden ships and come across the Atlantic to this new land called America, you might need to move from the cities. You might need to you might need to say, man, what I thought I was going to be, or even the career that I'm in, or the work I've been pursuing, where I am currently, I might need to move to Tennessee.
Wow. And that's happening.
Yep. Tennessee actually has the best income to cost of living ratio in the country.
Yeah.
And so you'd think, oh my God, I've been locked into this gerbil wheel, chasing the almighty dollar, trying to find ways to get more of it. And if I do spend 80 hours a week at work, I'm at least spending 40 hours a week not living.
Yeah. And Paul, you know how I know you're right? My buddy Chubby, his name is Joe. He moved to Tennessee. He had a house. It was probably about 2,100 square feet. No land. He was paying, I think it was like $6,000 in taxes. He moved to Tennessee, got a house, paid way less than what his house was worth here. I mean, was worth in Illinois. And he went from $6,000 in taxes to $600 in property taxes, and a house with land. And I mean, how can other states not see when you look at places like Tennessee? How can they not see that, how Tennessee is working and other states are failing and flailing as well, Paul?
Beautiful question. This is really at the heartbeat of it all, and that is the center point of it all, and that is they manage the money which affects the weather in our lives, in our heads, in our locales. So the bigger the government is, the more engineering they're going to do, the more problems they're going to create. And you say, how can they not know? And here's why. It's a principle. Einstein said, the mind that created the problem cannot possess the solution.
Amen.
Therefore, Washington can never solve Washington, or, Detroit or Chicago or LA or big group. They aren't good at what they're doing. Just because they're bigger doesn't mean they're better. Right? Navy SEAL team takes care of things. It's got 4, 5, 6 folks in the group, right? It's lean and mean. It's efficient. So that's why the framers said, man, we can't have monarchies or centralized power. We need to have 50 presidents in this country. And we'll have some, a centerpiece that can get those guys and gals to negotiate when it's necessary. The federal government was more just a conduit at the center of a bike wheel, right? But we were all the spokes doing our own thing. And if you didn't like how this one group was running its state, you could leave the state. And that's what you got to look at now, because you got 80 years here on the planet, and peace of mind is not a feeling.
Yeah.
Right? I say it's a country, and you need to move there. Peace of mind. You can't go through your life here just grinding and not getting ahead. When the government prints, they're printing, causing prices to go up at about 8% a year since the year 2000. Wages are going up 2% a year. Now,
Paul,
on the gold standard,
we got about a minute and 30 seconds left. But I have to ask this question: if the average American reads 1971 cover to cover, what's the one shift in mindset you hope it sparks?
Oh my God, awareness. Imagine if we found out today that crayons caused cancer. Do you think anyone would let their kids play with them tomorrow?
No.
So the minute the beauty of and the magic of a human being is aware of something, its own dynamic powers will start kicking in. It'll start recognizing for itself how it can start realigning itself with the world around. Life on Earth is always going to be full of struggle. We are never going to build a country or a land or a system that it removes struggle. We're not the boss of the planet. We're visitors here.
Yeah.
So awareness is what comes. Personal freedom, empowerment, and not some sticky notes on a mirror reminding you you're a good person. You are a good people. You know, the people listening today, it is not your fault. You're not doing it wrong. And this book will literally prove to you that the reason the country anesthetizes itself with drugs, the reason the American family died, how the 74,000 manufacturing firms that used to be here since 1990 are now in China. It isn't your fault. You are dealing with something your parents never even dreamed it could exist, nor your grandparents. And the kids, they don't need to be depressed anymore. But someone's got to take the lead. If they're 12, 15, 16 years old, they might need to go, I don't want to move to Tennessee. But you know what, son? You know what, daughter? This is where living occurs.
Whew. Paul Stone, where can people get the book?
It's on Amazon. It came out last Thursday. It's #1 top new release, and it's doing great. And that's why I wrote it. I'm not really an author. I kind of can become one now, but what I am is just wanted to share this message.
Yeah,
We are not defective. We are not defective, and we can do this. But hey, that Harry, what's that? Chapman song. If we just had a fast car, what that means is if we could just get the courage to break free of the chains, the routines, and get to where it's good. We need to get to where it's good.
Yeah, living in the fast lane. Yeah, I love that song too. Paul Stone, thanks so much for joining us on Detroit's Morning Answer. Guys, go out and get his book right away. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Detroit's Morning Answer, Hour 2 coming up next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.